I'm Luke Summerhays, and I love Flabébé. The 6th generation introduced a brand new Pokemon type, the Fairy type. Being the first game set in Europe, and with a storyline focused on ancient history in a stone circle, it was a fitting time to do it. Fairies, Fae, or the Fair Folk are common in European folklore, particularly Britain and Ireland. At different times in history, the word fairy has encompassed many things and carried many connotations. Early precursors from Gaelic traditions are nature spirits, not too far removed from the animist gods of Japanese Shinto. Christianity spread demonized fairies as fallen angels, and later the word began to encompass all manner of entities like goblins, elves, and gnomes. Eventually, as New Age sentiment tried to reclaim pre-Christian beliefs, our image of fairies settled on beautiful little waifs who sit under flowers or cling to them in a breeze. Flabébé is a fairy-type Pokemon, a colourful creature with small arms, no legs, and big ears like the wings one might see on a fairy, clinging to a flower. Pokemon X says, "It draws out and controls the hidden power of flowers. The flower Flabébé holds is most likely part of its body." And Pokemon Y says, "When it finds a flower it likes, it dwells on that flower its whole life long. It floats in the wind's embrace with an untroubled heart." Flabébé can be found with 5 different coloured flowers, though at this stage the Pokemon's own body does not change colour. Pokemon Ultra Sun says, "It's not safe without the power of a flower, but it will keep travelling around until it finds one with the colour and shape it wants." And Ultra Moon says, "Flabébé wears a crown made from pollen it's collected from its flower. The crown has hidden healing properties." The name Flabébé, which is the same in all languages, combines flower with bébé, the French for baby. Naturally, it doesn't stay a baby, and at level 19, it evolves into Floette. Floette has grown to such a size that rather than living on the flower, it looks more like it holds the flower like an umbrella. It still floats jauntily through the air beneath its chosen plant, seemingly without a care in the world. Pokemon X tells us, "It flutters around fields of flowers and cares for flowers that are starting to wilt. It draws out the hidden power of flowers to battle." And Pokemon Y tells us, "When the flowers of a well-tended flower bed bloom, it appears and celebrates with an elegant dance." In classic fairy lore, fairy circles are rings of emptiness among plant life, and stepping into them or messing with them could put you at the mercy of the fairies' magics. Pokemon Ultra Sun tells us, "It raises flowers and uses them as weapons. The more gorgeous the blossom, the more power it contains." And Pokemon Ultra Moon, "It gives its own power to flowers, pouring its heart into caring for them. Floette never forgives anyone who messes up a flower bed." As well as the regular Floette, with its 5 coloured flowers, at the end of Pokemon X and Y, we see the character AZ, an ancient immortal king, reunited with his Floette, for whom he caused all the magical nonsense of the plot. This one has a unique colour scheme and flower, and has never officially been made available to players, though it is in the code of the games, with its own Pokédex entries in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. It will return in Pokemon Legends EA, and if it finally finds its way into players' hands, it may get a special episode of this podcast. The name, Floette, is again consistent across all languages, and again combines English and French, the English word flower, and the French suffix et. It's not a baby, but it's still only a little Pokémonette, until, with a shiny stone, it evolves into Florges. Florges incorporates the flower into its own body, becoming an elegant fusion of plant, mermaid, and dancer in a beautiful dress. Pokemon X tells us, "It claims exquisite flower gardens as its territory, and it obtains power from basking in the energy emitted by flowering plants." And Pokemon Y says, "In times long past, governors of castles would invite Florges to create flower gardens to embellish the castle domains." AZ and his Floette lived for millennia, but in the world of Florges, that isn't so far beyond the norm. Pokemon Ultra Moon tells us, "Its life can span several hundred years. It is said to devote its entire life to protecting gardens." Once again, Florges' name is consistent across languages, combining flora, or plant life, with gorgeous. Although Fairy type was introduced to combat the dominance of the Dragon type, Florges never had a major role in the video game competitive scene. Friend of the show, Mikey from Pokemon Crossroads, got in touch about its role in the trading card game. The Pokemon TCG doesn't ban cards in the standard format. They usually let the card run its course and try to print counters to it. That way, the usage of the card will go down and eventually just fade away. Rarely do they ban cards from the standard format, unless it creates a toxic game state that prevents the opponent from playing the game. The expanded format is another story. Because of the huge array of cards that enter the format, there is no way to know how a modern card will interact with a card printed back in 2011. Or in this case, printed in 2018. We are talking about Flabébé from Forbidden Light. This Flabébé is simple enough until we look at the evolutionary advantage ability that Flabébé has. This ability allows your Flabébé to evolve if you go second. And in the expanded format, that can happen pretty easy, with the vast amount of search cards in the format. Now the question is, why was Flabébé banned? Fast forward to 2019, where a Floette was printed in Cosmic Eclipse. This Floette was one of the last fairy type to be printed, and it has the flower picking ability that allows you to choose a card at random from your opponent's hand. It will then shuffle that card back into the opponent's deck. With the right cards in your hand, you could take your opponent's hand down to almost zero. The expanded format has plenty of ways to limit your opponent's hand size, and Floette can pick away at the opponent's hand. Now your opponent can't play the game properly. The solution? Simply ban Flabébé from the expanded format. That way it won't make Floette become a problematic card. Meanwhile, Florges hasn't caused too many issues during its time in the Pokemon TCG. There was a Florges EX card that came out during Phantom Forces. This Florges EX was used in a second place European Challenge Cup by Emmanuel de Silva. The deck he used with Florges EX was a Fairy Box Tax that used various Fairy-type Pokemon. This would help Florges EX do heavy damage to opponents' active Pokemon. Thanks, Mikey! The Fairy type will go on to give us nature deities, ancient heroes of the Britons, and food-based Pokemon that explore the concept of consuming the food of the fairy world. But here, with the very first new Pokemon given the typing, we get a classic fairy. Music for Luke Loves Pokemon is composed by Jonathan Croney. Artwork for the show is by Katie Groves. If you enjoy the podcast, find out about my other shows at podcastiopodcastius.org. Get in touch on Blue Sky at podcastpodcast, or support the show at patreon.com/podcastiopodcastius. I love hearing from listeners. Up next are Skiddo and Pancham, so hit me up about those or any other Pokemon. And even if you don't feel like doing any of that, thank you so much just for listening. I love Flabébé, and remember, I love you too.